Today on Straight Talk Africa, India, with its rich cultural history, now home to more than 1.2 billion people and a major emerging economy, needs resources to sustain its development and its massive population. For some essential resources, India is increasingly turning to Africa. What's in it for Africa? African-Indian relations, China and the US. Let's find out. Coming up next on Straight Talk Africa. Hello, welcome to Straight Talk Africa, live from the Voice of America studios here in Washington. It's Wednesday, August 8th. I am Shaka Ssali. First, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my colleague, Mwamoyo Hamza, for holding the fort while I was away in Ghana on special assignment. Today, we'll discuss India's rising influence on the African continent. India, with more than 1 billion people, is closing in on China and is still growing. That population needs resources, oil, food, minerals, energy, you name it. Today, India's investment in Africa is growing rapidly too. While it's only about half the 110 billion US dollars China is investing in Africa this year, it's still a substantial amount of money. My colleague Paul Cisco takes a look at the Indian-African story.
The players: Mahatma Gandhi of India, Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Obafemi Awolowo of Nigeria, Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, Kenneth Kaunda, Zambia. The nations then India, and almost all of sub-Saharan Africa. Mahatma Gandhi established the moral foundations for independence from Great Britain, and some say modern Indian-African relations. Gandhi, initially working with an Indian law firm in Natal, in what is now South Africa, gradually oversaw the first flowerings of his nonviolent resistance movement. And with its practice, he was instrumental in achieving Indian independence from Britain in 1947, while inspiring a generation of African leaders whose legacy still grows. Jawaharlal Nehru, the first independent Prime Minister of India, said Africa was India's next-door neighbor, separated only by the Indian Ocean. He supported anti-apartheid struggles and Africa's national liberation movements, and played an important role in convening the first Asian-African conference, giving rise to the non-aligned movement. Today, India's trillion-dollar economy is growing rapidly, projected between 8 and 9% over the next 2 decades. Also growing rapidly is its population, energy needs, and investment in Africa. Dr. Peter Pham is with the Atlantic Council.
Where some countries simply extract resources from Africa and take them home to be the value added occurs elsewhere. We think of, for example, China's export of primary resources, minerals, and other natural resources to China. India is actually investing in capacity in Africa.
Economic growth in Africa averaged 5% over the last decade, and India is now, next to China, Africa's second major trading partner. China's investment has generally been viewed as resource extractment-driven. India's engagement and projects encourage technology transfer, with more emphasis on institution building and developing human resources on the continent. China's investments in Africa will total about $110 billion this year alone. India's rapidly climbing investment on the continent will top out at roughly half that figure. Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh.
India has consistently supported the development of African capacities in the maintenance of peace and security.
India's peacekeeping role on the continent is substantial. India is the third largest contributor to UN peacekeeping efforts in Africa. President Obama welcomes India's efforts at peacekeeping and nation-building in Africa, saying it complements American activities on the continent aimed at promoting greater stability. However, New Delhi, more so than Washington, has lobbied for a restructuring of the United Nations, with Indian proposals for 2 African seats on a revamped Security Council. Paul Cisco, VOA News.